Hey, what's up, show? Welcome to my 5 Minute Friday for January 19th. And this week is awesome. Practical data modeling, which is a new Substack that I launched. The community is growing very fast. We're having some great conversations there. If you haven't checked it out and you're interested in data modeling, go to practicaldatamodeling.substack.com. We had some great chats this week. Some questions came up that I posed to the group, such as, how does data modeling differ by geography and company and culture and so forth? And it seemed that they got a lot of good responses there. Turns out the practice of data modeling does, in fact, differ by where you happen to live and work. And, another question that I posed to the group was a question that, a good friend of mine asked one time. It's more of a statement, really. It wasn't really a question, but he said he doesn't believe in data modeling. He thinks it's nonsense. He doesn't think we need to do it. And I replied that data modeling is one of those things where you're probably intentionally doing it or you're unintentionally doing, but you're probably doing it whether you know it or not. I think anytime you shape data to represent some aspect of reality that you're trying to model, then you're data modeling. And as I say, no data model is still a data model. It's just a really crappy one, right? So, but I think that discussions also seem to point at a variety of definitions of data modeling. And I think as an industry, we need to settle on at least directionally a definition for data modeling, and one that I think is current with the kind of state of affairs that we operate in these days. I'll read you a few definitions of data modeling so you can get an idea. This one's from Steve Hoberman, who I consider to be the OG of data modeling. Also got a good podcast with him coming up really soon. Steve defines data modeling as a data model is a wayfinding tool for both business and IT professionals, which uses a set of symbols and text to precisely explain a subset of real information to improve communication within the organization and thereby lead to a more flexible and stable application environment. Okay, the wayfinding tool uses symbols and text to precisely explain a subset of real information, right? So when I talked to Steve last week, he said that a data model needs to be very precise. It needs to precisely map concepts and reality to data, right? That's what a data model is to him. If you were to look at William Kent's definition from Data and Reality, this came out in 1978, I believe. Data models are techniques for representing information and are at the same time sufficiently structured and simplistic to fit well into computer technology, right? So you got to remember, in 1978, people are still trying to figure out how to describe reality and model it in computers. I would say we're still struggling with this, but that's a different rant for a different day. And Larry Burns, who I also consider to be an OG of data modeling and just super thoughtful, he defines a data model as he says a data model tells a story. And the story is about how a group of people come together to use data to solve a business problem, and in parentheses, or take advantage of a business opportunity. The data model becomes a record of the journey from the conception of the problem to its solution. So woven between all of these different definitions I've given you are some common threads. And by the way, if you were to ask 10 people what they think a data model is, you'll probably get at least 10 answers, probably more. But some of the common threads, right? First, a data model represents something in an abstract way, right? You're not trying to come up with a mirror image of reality, but you're trying to represent maybe a thin slice of it as best you can. These could be concepts, events, relationships represented as a set of symbols and text, as Hoberman points out. Second, a data model organizes and standardizes data in a precise yet simplified way. You are trying to organize and standardize data as well as you can, hopefully as precise. Sometimes it's not, though, right? So it's where I might have differ from Steve's opinion of that a data model needs to be precise. And I'll get into this. I'll get into why in just a bit. And third, a data model improves communication, provides utility, promotes action, and solves problems, right? So provides utility is an interesting one. Promotes action is another one. I'm going to talk about this in a bit. So here's how I define a data model. A data model organizes and standardizes data to facilitate believable and useful inputs, information, knowledge, and actions for humans and machines. The machines part is interesting. I feel like this is something that not a lot of definitions of data modeling cover. In fact, I haven't seen anything that is inclusive of machines. And the way I separate this is most of the time, data isn't used by humans. The end outcome might impact humans, but as raw ingredients, data is often used by machines. You need to look no further than applications. Since computers were started or created back in the day, they took data as inputs and converted that into some other form of data output. That is a machine doing that. The humans may have modeled the data to be a useful input to this machine, but machines take that and provide hopefully useful outputs and actions, right? And so, and now you have the age of machine learning and AI, right? Where data needs to be, again, a useful input. You need to facilitate a useful input into a machine learning model, which will hopefully produce, information, knowledge, or actions for humans or other machines, right? And so this is where I think data modeling, the definitions need to keep up with where we are as a world today. It's not just about modeling data for analytics, which I consider to be a human use case, right? Where humans are interpreting the data and making, forming knowledge and wisdom. If you look at the data information, knowledge and wisdom hierarchy, that's maybe a canonical example of how we've thought about data as an input for the use of humans. But again, we live in a world increasingly where machines will have, are doing a lot of the work and will continue to do more work. And I think there'll be a point where machines are very autonomous and don't really need human interactions, but they'll still need data. They'll still need to represent data in a way that's useful and I guess, quote, believable for the machines. And so this is where I think that, I'm starting to evolve my definition of data modeling. Again, it's not just for humans anymore. We have to take into account machines. And of course, I want to talk about this too. There's the spectrum, I would say, of two things. There's intention and precision. So note when I said earlier that no data model is still a data model. It's a crappy data model. It's still a model. So a couple things here. That crappy data model is probably very imprecise. Right. I think for example, you need to look no further than a lot of data sets that are out there, whether they're using software applications or data models used for analytics or inputs into machine learning. A lot of data is not precise. I think there's sort of, this can be coupled with the notion of intention. Did you intend to, make an effort about modeling your data, or did you just clob a lot of data together and throw it into a table or a JSON file or whatever, right? And so this is what I mean. There's a spectrum of intention and precision. I would say the more intentional you are, you can couple this with hopefully being more precise. But still, a data model at the end of the day does organize and standardize data in some way to facilitate believable and useful inputs, information, knowledge, and actions for human and machines. And so I'm sure this definition will evolve. I'm sure that some people might hate this definition too, and that's perfectly okay. Like I said before, if you ask 10 people what they think a data model is, you'll probably get at least 10 answers, probably more like 100. And so, but this is where I'm pushing, at least my efforts in data modeling. It's not just about modeling for analytics. In fact, I would say when you look at the spectrum of where, if you draw sort of a bar chart of just the share of use cases and uses of data models, humans are actually, I would say, probably the smallest. Again, we're taking data and trying to make decisions off it, but there's so much data in the world that's used for things that don't involve decisions often. Your smartphone has a lot of data that's being parsed and moved back and forth and so forth, and it's not making any decisions per se, right? So I think we need to evolve the definition of a data model to today's world. Again, I think that the definitions that we used got us here, but I don't think the definitions that we have are going to get us to where we need to go, which is we're going to be living in a much more machine-centric world, right? Where data is used, and created for and by machines. So anyway, I'm sure this definition will evolve. I'm going to post it to my Substack, joereese.substack.com, as well as practicaldatamodeling.substack.com. And I'm very curious about the response to this. And like I said, I'm sure some people will love it, some people will hate it, but that's perfectly fine. That's my job. So, but yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what you think data modeling is. But join the discussion. I said at either Substack. Really excited to hear your opinions, and I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going to be off to Austin, Texas next week, and then New York City for the Chill Data Summit on, February 6th. And after that, got a bunch of travel in store for March. So I'd say stay tuned for more information on that, but going to be hitting up Paris a couple times, Switzerland, Saudi Arabia, and probably more. So anyway, I hope you have a great weekend. Take care, everybody. Bye.